In today's episode, I take a look at the dollar index and potential setups on EURUSD, Aussie dollar USD, and Aussie dollar JPY. We also have some action from our Discord trading room. Enjoy. Alright, I want to start us off with the dollar index. Now the dollar index was the very first chart that we looked at in our very first episode during 2020, and that was around about this time. We mentioned during that period that we are looking for the market to make a new high and potentially come into the 100 level. Now during last week we did spike into this liquidity level, and I marked off two levels here. This red level is the liquidity level and the black level is the 100 level. Now we came up to about 99.91 I believe, but since then we had quite a big reaction, and this is now definitely looking like it could potentially start reversing. Even though we just missed the 100 level, we're definitely going to start looking at the dollar pairs and see if we can find some setups. Just to remind you guys about the trade we're looking at, we're actually looking for a big dollar move that's going to run the whole of the year, and eventually I think even breaking these lows up until this level here, forming a bit of a bigger correction, something in those lines before we will go up. So quite a big trade we're looking at, and I'm quickly just going to go to some lower time frames to see some of the options we have on this trade. Alright, so just jumping down to the 8-hour time frame, here you guys can see the nice big reaction we had here on the 99.9 level once we took this liquidity. And right above this we have the 100 level, and then I also have my fib extension levels, the 113 and the 127. So now next week we're going to have to wait to have a look at the price action to see if we have a bit of a correction, or if in fact we might go a little bit higher. I think anything in between this level we are right now up until this 127 extension, any sort of reversal pattern we find in here, I'll be looking to go short. But we can't really trade the dollar index, so we're going to be looking at some currency pairs, and I'll be focusing on the euro dollar and the Aussie dollar US dollar for some long setups on there. And looking at the euro dollar, I want to just show you guys again the move that I'm expecting. And I've got the silver chart on the left here, and I got euro dollar on the right here. And as technical traders, all we can really do is find past patterns to look for probabilities of future movements. And I'm expecting something quite similar that we saw on silver developing on the left here to develop on the euro dollar on the right here. Now, as you guys can see, after the silver came down, it had the big consolidation. It ran the stops here, as you guys can see, and the same on the euro dollar. We had the same build up, and we ran the stops, the big impulse, and then it came grinding down. Now again, last week we mentioned we're looking for new lows on the euro dollar, similar to this silver. The silver had one last run on the stops, and then we had the big move up. And now again, like I say, on the euro dollar we had this break of the low, and once we get going, hopefully we'll find a strong move. And again, I believe we're even going to take out these highs and move much higher. But we're going to focus on the euro dollar quickly on the lower time frames and see if it's ready to reverse. Alright, sticking to the weekly time frame, what I've done here is I've marked off two important levels, and this is this weekly candle, and I've marked the top of this weekly candle and the body of this weekly candle. Now the body of this weekly candle is technically the gap close. As you guys can see here on this feed, the market closed here and then opened, gapped up, and this is the first time that we've come close to the gap close. But we've marked off the top of this daily candle or weekly candle, and also the body. Alright, so moving down to the 4-hour time frame, as you guys can see, the market had this big consolidation, and it actually spiked down and touched that weekly high that we marked off to the pip here. And since then we had our big impulsive move, breaking this big trend line coming down here. Now there's a couple of scenarios we can watch out for next week. One of those scenarios is that the price, and hopefully this is going to be the case, that this market will make a bit of a corrective pattern here, back into this consolidation level where it broke out, and from here we'll find our longs that we can hold for the rest of the year. Then we can also have the scenario where the market comes down one more time, taking these lows, perhaps even going to that body that we marked off, and here we'll find the longs. But as it stands right now, because we had this impulsive move, we got to be alert for the longs, and I'll definitely be looking for any sort of a reversal pattern that forms this week. And if I see any of those 12 reversal patterns that we teach in our training course, it might be a good time to go long the euro dollar. Right, so the next pair I want to focus on is Aussie US dollar. It's one we've covered in almost every weekly market review. And as you guys know, I'm expecting or waiting for this big move to the upside to clear these highs and make this bigger correction before ultimately coming down to take these lows. Alright, so a couple of weeks ago we actually did get long the Aussie dollar US dollar in this area over here, and we took a bit of profit, and since then the market came down. We actually had quite a clear indication that the market was going to make a new low, and we actually shared this with you guys in our trading room, and we've now broken those lows again, and now again we have to start waiting for new setups to go long on the Aussie dollar US dollar. The same with all the dollar pairs. We had this big spike over here, and now we're just going to have to start waiting to see how price action develops, and perhaps we can find a bit of a reversal pattern. And if that's the case with all the dollar patterns, then maybe around about here we can start looking for those longs. Yeah, currently we don't have any setups yet, but we'll see how this market develops. On the 1 hour we did have a bit of a break in market structure, so again now we're going to see if we find any sort of pattern, ideally into this consolidation level over here. And if you have some corrective price action and a little bit of a lower time frame reversal pattern, this might be a great opportunity to get long and potentially catch that big move on the dollar and the Aussie dollar US dollar. And finally, I want to cover one instrument that's not dollar denominated, and I'm looking at the Aussie dollar JPY daily time frame here. And what I want you guys to note is this market came down into this little consolidation area, demand zone or order block area, depending on your language. And once it traded into this area, we had this big impulsive move, and now we have some corrective price action forming over here. Now just jumping onto the 4 hour time frame, as you guys can see, we have this little bit of corrective pattern forming over here. The market took these highs up here, and perhaps next week we can trade lower into these lows, and over here we'll look for a bit of a reversal pattern. I'm not looking for a big trade, just actually looking for these highs to be taken, but one to look out for nonetheless. Right, that's it from me, guys. I'll see you all in the trading room.